$6 million to be channeled to help support vulnerable groups and research innovative solutions to future-proof Singapore's social ecosystem. Well, we have Dr. Justin Lee, Senior Research Fellow and the Head of Policy Lab at the Institute of Policy Studies, as well as Dr. Harvey Neo. He's Senior Fellow at the Lee Kuan Yew Centre for Innovative Cities. Let's start with you, Dr. Lee. What does a social system that's fit for the future, as we envisage the future to be, what would that look like?
I think it's a social ecosystem that is resilient and adaptive to change. That's part of the reason for the fund, is to not just encourage projects or pilot projects, but projects that allow us to build community resilience. Maybe it's a project that builds non-profits' capabilities or social service agencies' innovativeness or capacities to use research or evidence.
Dr. Neo, let's bring you in on the conversation here. Singapore is very regularly preparing for different events in the future, climate change as an example, extreme weather events. How does this differ from projects like that?
Well, the key difference is that we are willing to test innovative solutions to some of the problems that you mentioned, which are perennial ones. In other words, they are long-standing ones. We are also interested to look at the unknowns. So eventualities which may not be entirely anticipated, but we want to think about those kinds of future scenarios and try to anticipate that and give solutions to it before it actually happens.
Right. Dr. Lee, back to you. What kind of evidence-based projects might merit actually tapping onto this fund then? I mean, talk to us about the selection process and just what it might entail.
I think there's no standard fixed process for selection. I think, of course, if a solution and idea has some evidence behind it, that's great. But we'll also consider solutions which are not been tested, really interesting or really strong. And sometimes really innovative ideas come from outside your field of your usual suspects. And so I think we consider, well, I specifically like solutions that have a seed of systemic change embedded within them. What I mean by that is, for example, if let's say we do interest-free loans to the poor. Interest-free loans to the poor, then, and that's not part of this project, right? But it's an example of how you could give loans and it actually displaces predatory lending, right? So it's not just a pilot. It's a conversation about the financial system.
If I could bring Dr. Neo in on this, it's a rhetorically obvious question that we should fortify the social ecosystem. But I take it what is slightly different about this $6 million grant is it's helping us help ourselves rather than letting us keep looking to authorities to say, oh, I don't know, pay for this, help me with that. If we're able to be self-sustaining, each helping each other, is that the value of this particular grant for fortifying this particular ecosystem?
Yes, and aside from that, right, it's also to acknowledge that the people at large could be the best source of solutions for the problems that they face in the present and as well as the future problems that they anticipate. So I think this is what is unique by it. By the program, we encourage people to identify their own future and to work towards their future and to overcome any problems that might come in the way of that realizing that future.
All right, Dr. Lee, let me pick you up on what you mentioned earlier. What you liked is when there's a seed of systemic change embedded in already existing projects. None of this we're doing would be completely new. I take it we're building on things that are already there. Give me an example of something that started because a seed of systemic change was already embedded in a project from the very start.
Well, one of the projects we really want to try is, for example, participatory budgeting and citizen design. This is not a new idea. It started in the 1980s in Brazil. But we've not done very serious participatory budgeting projects in Singapore. Now, why is that interesting? Participatory budgeting is where citizens actually decide on deliberating and then deciding on the use of some kind of public budget, discretionary budget, potentially a town council budget. Maybe seniors would like to have a park bench where they usually congregate, or maybe some youths would like to have Wi-Fi in the void decks where they want to study, or some sustainability conscious residents want to create a food forest. Now, all these are ideas, and usually in a neighborhood, what we have are meet the people sessions whereby individual citizens go to your MP and they request or they complain or they say some issues are there. So it's all these citizens having relationships with the MP, and that's a good thing, But what if the citizens as neighbors were deciding on their community, what's useful to them as a group, but also listen to other citizens' ideas, other neighbors' ideas, and then voting on the ones that they like the best. And if you build that democratic muscle, that your ideas matter and that your ideas need to be tested with other people's ideas, and then you end up deciding together collectively on the best ideas, that's part of growing our ability to make collective decisions together.
Yes, looking at the potential of those collaborative ideas and just what they might yield. Dr. Justin Lee and Dr. Harvey Neo, thank you very much. We've been speaking there to Dr. Harvey Neo from the Lee Kuan Yew School of Centre for Innovative Cities, as well as to Dr. Justin Lee from IPS. Thank you very much.